Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we will meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samelin. I'm the principal of Samelin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and learn from them. Today, my guest is Brian Schachter. Brian is the co-founder of ESS Settlement Services, a settlement consulting company based in New York City. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Andy.
So, Brian, tell us about your background. Now, just before we get started, Brian, a former lawyer in the context of ESS, does not act as an attorney. He acts as a settlement consultant. He's going to tell us a little bit about that. So, Brian, maybe you want to tell us about your law school history and, your career up until this point?
Yeah, sure. Upon graduating law school, I worked for a short time for a personal injury firm. And it was only about 6 months until my ambition took me outside of there to start my own firm. Started off doing some insurance litigation for doctors who were billing no fault, and that grew into personal injury practice for about 3 or 4 years until my partner joined me. We started the law firm of Schachter and Levine. We did that for about 15 years until we started seeing a need in this space, in the structured settlement and settlement consulting space, as a result of a client that we worked with. And that's the first time that we were introduced to the concept of structured settlement, seeing the needs and seeing what it addressed in a client. And we started doing a little bit of both, and this business just took off. We morphed into doing this full time.
So what was that case that the light bulb went off?
This was a guy who was injured traumatically, catastrophically. He was actually a paraplegic, and unfortunately, the tortfeasor, the person who was responsible for his injury, had very limited insurance coverage, only had $1 million, which may sound like a lot of money, but certainly isn't when you're in your 30s and you're paralyzed for life and you have medical needs for the next your lifespan. So we had to find some way to make this money work the best we could for this client. And the insurance company brought in a structured settlement consultant on their end and introduced us to the concept of helping to stretch the money, turning it into monthly income, and helping to use it to meet needs of clients, down the road and for their whole lifetimes. And that's where the light bulb went off. Got
it. And so you mentioned that ESS is a full service settlement consultant. What exactly does that mean? And how is that, different from others serving attorneys in that space?
So when we came into this space, we kind of saw this need. There were people doing what we do that were working for both sides, the plaintiffs and the defendants, the insurance companies, in setting up structured settlements. And that's a valuable.
By the way, you'll forgive me for interrupting, but before, do you want to just give a baseline or a rough overview of the structured settlement, how that helps clients?
Yeah, what a structured settlement is a good place to start. Basically, a structured settlement is something funded generally through a fixed annuity, although as I'll get to in a little while, there is the ability to fund it through other funding vehicles. But what happens is the defendant enters into an agreement instead of paying, say, $1 million today, to pay a stream of future payments down the road. And those can be monthly payments for a period of time. They can be monthly payments for life. They could be a series of lump sum payments in the future. And they assign the obligation to make those payments to a third-party assignment company. In other words, the reason they do that is because no plaintiff wants to rely on an insurance company or defendant to be sending them checks for the rest of their life. So again, the insurance company will buy an annuity or use another funding vehicle, and that will provide that stream of income for the plaintiff. So the great thing about a structured settlement is, unlike traditional investments, as you and your viewers would know, where traditional investments, your gains are taxable for the most part. With a structured settlement, your gains are forever tax-free. So while the principle of a personal injury award is tax-free, the gains are taxable. So you have that tax-free element, which is enormous. You also have a predictable locked-in interest rate. So if we set up a structured settlement that's going to pay someone, for example, $5,000 a month for life, it doesn't matter what happens to interest rates, what happens to the stock market, what happens to the economy. if another, COVID pandemic comes along, they can rely on getting that $5,000 on the first of every month for the rest of their life. And that is obviously for someone who is unable to work anymore because of an injury or has significant medical expenses because of an injury. You can't overstate the value of that predictability.
Mm-hmm. And the services that you're providing, how is that different from other settlement consultants who serve attorneys in your space?
So we are, of course, providing that core service, right, of brokering structured settlements, finding the right solutions for clients, finding the structured settlement company that's going to give the best rate for the income stream that they've chosen. And that's where the similarity between us as settlement consultants and traditional structure brokers ends. We tend to look more at the client's whole situation, not just the settlement of dollars in a vacuum. Where someone who just offers structured settlements, if they can offer that, if it's right for the client. Now, look, it's a valuable tool and it's right for a lot of people, but it's not necessarily right for everyone. And a lot of times it may be right for the client, but they still don't want it for whatever reason. If that's the case, a traditional structured settlement broker's role ends right there. There's nothing else he or she can do. We offer a whole other host of services, and we'll get into that in a minute. But look, a lot of times what a structured settlement broker will do is, since they have one product to offer, they're trying to often fit a square peg into a round hole. So we're not boxed into that.
So besides structured settlements, what other services then do you provide?
So again, when we talk about structured settlements, I just mentioned a client, someone who's injured in a lawsuit. There's also the ability for an attorney who's getting a fee in a contingency fee case to structure their fee. It has a lot of the same advantages of a structured settlement. It's not tax-free, however, it's tax-deferred, which, as you know, has its own value. It's not quite as powerful as being tax-free. So we can offer those structured settlements to clients and attorneys, again, as traditional brokers do. We also go a step beyond in that regard, in that we don't offer just traditional structured settlements. We have access to market-based structured settlements. Without digging too deep into that, basically, you have the ability to, instead of putting your money into a fixed annuity, put it with an asset manager like yourself and like your firm, have that money grow on a tax-deferred basis within still a structured settlement framework, and have it distributed in the future as it grows tax deferred. There's also hybrid products that kind of use fixed rates with insurance companies, but offer upside depending on different indexes in the stock market and things like that, and also offer downside protection. So that's kind of where our similarities end with the traditional structured settlement broker. To go a little further, we do a lot of Medicare and Medicaid planning, government benefits planning. Why is that important? It's important in a lot of ways. There's tremendous emerging regulations in the Medicare world for future obligations in terms of protecting Medicare's future interests. So lawyers who are watching this may be familiar with a Medicare set aside. Not something you learn about a lot when you're doing personal injury law. It's something you come across in a settlement that a lot of time is foreign if you don't see it a lot. So we can help, we work with that. Again, that's something that we go above and beyond with. Special needs trusts, people who are getting Medicaid benefits. If you're getting $1 million or $2 million, again, that seems like a lot of money. But if you use significant medical needs, that money's going to go real quick. So especially if you have to be home health aid or you have to be in a facility. So you need to keep protect those Medicaid benefits. So we can help with that. And we have, again, a team of elder care lawyers. We have a team of people put together the trust. We bring our whole team together to kind of, what we do is identify these needs and we bring the team together to implement them. Trust services, particularly for people who are catastrophically injured, severe brain injuries, or people who have extraordinary needs. So we'll bring in trust companies to set up the trust. So there's someone to help manage the money, someone to help distribute the money. We also work with companies that have something pretty unique in this space called the trust protector. And what a trust protector does is he works between a trustee and a client to help anticipate the needs of someone who's catastrophically injured. So things such as you need to alter a vehicle to accommodate a wheelchair, or you need to alter a home so the openings of the doors are wide enough for a wheelchair, or the bathroom, or you need a home health aid. The trust protector is used to working in this space, and they'll go out and help you find those products and services to help you. So they act as kind of a liaison with the trust. Financial planning and wealth management, as you know, we can work with financial planners such as yourself and bring them into the case. So again, it's not just, hey, a structure settlement's not right for you. Sorry, I can't help you. Goodbye. It's like any investment portfolio. Here's a structure settlement, which is a fixed income product, right? And I'll defer to you, but I'm sure that you tell your clients that fixed income is a part of any portfolio. How much a part depends probably on your age and your risk tolerance and things like that. But we can provide a pretty strong fixed income portion to that portfolio, again, on the tax-free basis with a great return. So we'll work with someone like yourself in trying to fit that into the overall plan, again, instead of trying to fit that square peg into that round hole.
So I was going to ask, what is unique about your approach that adds value to the client and to the personal injury lawyer? But I kind of get the feeling you just answered it.
Yeah, well, that's just the beginning. Yeah, I mean, I could, it's a good segue because litigation support services is another thing, right? Again, for lawyers who are seeing this, they'll know what a 50B analysis is. It's probably a little too into the weeds to get into for those who don't know, but it's basically a way of paying off judgments in New York. It's pretty complicated, but what it does is it kind of gives you a real value to your case. Now, in this day and age of higher interest rates, for reasons, again, that personal injury lawyers will understand, it's not all that valuable in negotiating a settlement because of the way the discount value works and the way interest rates work. But it's something, again, that's necessary. We can provide that service. Kaiser formulas. That's something in the New York law that helps a lawyer figure out in a wrongful death case who gets what. So someone dies, they have a wife and 2 kids. How does that money get split up? Who gets what percentage? There's a formula in New York law that's established by case law called the Kaiser formula, and we're experts in that too, so we can help lawyers figure that out. We attend mediations with lawyers as well. Why is that important? If I go to a mediation, if I have 30 different lawyers I work with, and each one's having 1 mediation a month, that's 30 mediations a year, as opposed to the 12 mediations a year that a lawyer will go to. So I see the mediators a lot more. I'm more familiar with how the mediators, what their little style is. Every mediator has their own style of negotiation, and what they say to you has an undertone of a message. I can help a lawyer kind of decode that message. Another thing too is as a formal practicing trial attorney, a lot of times a lawyer will fall in love with their case, right? That's part of being a lawyer. Is you have to be an advocate. You do fall in love with your case. I can help them look at it with a fresh set of eyes and say, hey, you know what? You have a good case, but here are your weaknesses, and maybe you shouldn't be so aggressive in this particular area. And lawyers that we work with will come to trust us and appreciate us in that regard. When I talked about Medicare and Medicaid planning before, one of the problems we run into a lot is that you try to help people. You can lead an elephant to water is not the term, but you can't make them drink, right? So we try to help clients with Medicare and Medicaid planning, but a lot of them don't want to hear it. So what the lawyer is concerned is, hey, a year from now or 2 years from now, this client's going to come back to me and say, you never told me that I have to do X, Y, and Z or to lose my Medicaid, lose my Medicare. They want to blame the lawyer. So what we do is we'll provide we call it a CYA letter. But basically it's kind of a letter that the client will sign and say, hey, I've been explained what my obligations are under Medicare and Medicaid. I've been offered to meet with so-and-so and have this conversation. I've refused to do so. The client will sign that. And when the client comes back in 2 years and said, you never told me here, I did tell you. And in fact, I advised you to do something and you acknowledge that I did so. So that's important too.
Yeah.
I was going to go over a couple of ways that we can add value. Special needs trusts. I talked about special needs trusts, but document preparation and review. Mm-hmm. Settlement documents in a personal injury case. Most personal injury lawyers see those every day, right? But when you get into a structured settlement and you get into some of this Medicare stuff, it's new. This isn't stuff that lawyers see every day. So we'll help prepare those documents. We'll help review those documents. Holding a client's hand through the settlement process. At ESS Settlements, one of our models early on was always, you go on to the next case, leave the settlement process to us. So we like to say that we can really pick up the client, walk them through the whole thing. And again, not like a traditional structure broker where they're just working with the structured settlement. We're going to help them through it all.
Brian, I don't want to stop you, but I mean, just so people know what we're doing, my guest today is Brian Schachter of ESS Settlement Services, a settlement consulting company located in New York City. Brian, for those guests that want to contact you, can you share your phone number twice?
Sure, twice. Okay. Well, I'll give you two phone numbers. How's that? I'll share them both twice. Our toll-free number is 844 ESS 1212. And my cell number that you could always use me on is 917-453-2475. So that's 844 ESS 1212 and 917-453-2475.
And is there an email or a website that folks can visit and say hello?
Of course, yeah. So the website is esqsettlements.com. That's ESQ Settlements with an S at the end. And my email address is my first initial B, my last name Schachter, which I hope you can see on the screen, spelled SCHACHTER, at ESQ Settlements with an S at an N.com. So it's B Schachter at ESQsettlements.com.
Great. This has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys and former attorneys like Brian who go above and beyond for their clients. If you're an attorney or know one that does go above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us at 914-666-6600, 914-666-6600. Brian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.